If you're curious to know how to make analog color prints in a darkroom, you find the proper video and the proper channel. So today I received also additional new stuff from the Vintage Visual, and as you probably can see, I have the huge drum and I have additional things for my Ego film processor, which is a funnel. But first, let's prepare my kitchen to be in a darkroom. And it takes a little bit of preparation and it's not so obvious as you think. And I will show you small example how you can do that. And in my case, I'm using kitchen and not the bathroom. And the simple explanation of that, I have a window in the bathroom, and unfortunately window in the bathroom doesn't really have any kind of a blinds, and I just don't really want to go there. So it's much easier for me to have a good sink here in the kitchen, and additionally I have windows with the roulettes, which allows me to close and blindfold the darkness completely in the room. But let's start with the first thing first, and let's make this room completely total dark. Because I have German style window here, and if you live in Germany, you probably know how it works. So I just move the roulettes down and I have complete darkness in the room. So I have zero problems with the light leaks here. It's totally blindfolded, so it's amazing feature in this apartment, and it will save a lot of time with the taping and with a lot of stuff. So probably if you build your own darkroom, think about this solution, because it's outside, it's easy, and it creates additional benefits. You can easily roll it down, roll it up, and they exist in like mechanical electronic form, whereas you press the button and it's closed down. So the next thing, you actually need to look for the LEDs, and if you have LEDs like this, you need to remove them because they will fog your paper, and the color paper is really sensitive. So next, the usual suspect is LEDs and screens and things like this. But I will also trying to find if I can switch it off separately from the power supply. So the best way to fix it is actually just to use a cardboard and scotch tape, and just use a flex, any type of non-transparent materials or thick enough materials. And easy test for all of that, that's in the dark, it should be not visible. And that's it, what it's required. It's not a lot of things which is required. If you just stand in the dark for at least a minute and you don't see any lights, it should be sufficient for the color printing. And be careful with the LEDs, because LEDs is a sharp light, and it means it will expose really well the color paper. And even if it's dim, it doesn't really mean that it's, you know, not visible by paper. Paper will work really well with the blue LEDs, and it will consume the light from the LEDs really well, and you will have a color cast on your paper. So let's start with the enlarger in place, and I put it on top of the stove. So I also removed the buttons here to easily stand it. And in the normal minimalistic setup, this is enough, and we will start from here as the main exposure area. So it's a time to put the apron, and if you're curious to know, I actually have a merch, and if you want to support my channel, you can buy the aprons on my Etsy shop. It's really beautiful ones. It's much better than this one. It's with the embroidering here and with the funny rock and roll pictures related to the film photography. So it's one of the ways to support my channel. If you also want to support it just financially, go in the coffee in the links below, and you can purchase our digital products or just drop a few bucks to support me and my endeavors in this darkroom. So guys, as you can see, it's not a lot of space here, and we need to work tidily and try to not occupy the whole space. So I will turn on enlarger. And as you remember, I have some slight light leaks. So also talking about the Intrepid camera enlarger, here you can see probably in some light that I have a red LEDs inside. And this red LED will fog your paper. And honestly, this is the worst idea what you can have, just a shining light of LED. I have idea to modify it before, but I don't really have time anymore. Maybe if you're curious, in next video I will show you how to fix it. So put it in the comments below if you're curious to know. And as you can see here, I have a beautiful green light on top of the power supply of the Intrepid camera enlarger. So this is also no go. We need to tape it down and basically remove any sides of these green LEDs. As always, I don't really want to insult anyone, but sometimes I'm thinking that the products for the analog printing and darkroom just not made by the people who actually use them, because if you make any type of beta tests, you will see that this is actually the problem. So the light works, and I will use 35mm mask to put my negative, and next step I will basically select the negatives which I will print. So here on the table I have everything what I need for the developing of the paper, and in my case I have the normal drum and this drum from Patterson with a special reel for the Ego film processor. But additionally, and we will discuss it in this video, I have a special prototype from the Ego film for the long reel for developing on really huge size of paper. And I have a Adox Array 4 kit, which, as you probably know, I'm not a big fan of, but in general it's only one option what I can get, and you saw it probably in my unpacking video. But this is the reason why I don't like this kit. And as you can see here, I have a sediment on the bottom and it's quite huge, so I need to do something about that, because it's definitely no-go in terms of the preparation of the chemicals. So I cannot really use it like that, so I need to dissolve it first, probably with the heating of the chemicals. And I have the old version of the test printer. I took it with me just as a memory, and everything started from there. And everybody asking me where and when I will get the restock of the new versions of the test printers, and unfortunately at the moment I have no ability to make them by hand. And because I'm living here temporarily and I will move also soon, I don't really have an ability to rebuy and restock the components, and also some parts which I need a 3D print, I cannot print at the moment. And if I don't really want to bump up the price, I cannot outsource it. So the price at the moment is quite low. It's 100 euros. And if you compare it even for the products, what I have here on the table, I think at the moment the reel for this drum costs around 80 euros. And I'm producing the test printers, which is much more complicated. It has magnets inside, it's also multi-part, as additional system which allows you to print and repeat a lot of things, which solve a lot of problems, and it uses more high quality components than the rest of the brands, and it's much harder to not make something simple as a test printer, which will cost like 200 euros. And this is why I do it myself, and in modern economy I think it's not reasonable to scale it up, make it, you know, from plastic, and it's a lot of complications there. So I'm thinking maybe after New Year I will start to producing again newer version of the Safelite and also new version of the test printers. But we will see, I'm not sure yet. It's quite complicated process at the moment, but still, if you will receive 3D printer for the Christmas or for the New Year, you can buy a digital version and you can easily assemble it. I have really good designs. It's really easy to print on any type of 3D printer, even beginner ones. From the simple plastics, it should be not required to use special technical plastics as I use it for manufacturing. So you can easily buy it in my coffee web shop. So it's not a huge deal. It's quite easy to assemble. You have the manual, you have a video manual, and you also have the links where you can buy the components for this test printer. And a lot of people asking me where I get the paper, and in my case, first time when I started, I bought this Fujifilm Fujicolor paper, and it's 100 pieces. It's quite a lot actually, and it's a luster paper type 2. All the emulsions from the Fujifilm more or less the same, but I used the glossy paper and I cut it from the roll. It's much cheaper to get it like this if you print a lot, and additionally it's much easier to do and cut the big pieces. Unfortunately, I don't really have a big roll, and this is a downside, and in future I will rebuy the roll of paper for the size of the test prints, because I want to go with the direction of the printing test prints with color, and it's quite important to have this ability to just print the whole paper. And I want to introduce a little bit of scrapbooking inside, so basically make the prints and make the whole process of the development of the final print, adjusting color as a story for the print. As I can see, the part B looks fine. So part B from Adox doesn't really have any problems. The huge problems is the part A all the time. It has some nasty sediment on the bottom, and I definitely need to preheat everything and try to dissolve it. Otherwise, probably I will have some mismatch with the development. As I said, unfortunately, I don't really have a circulator with me, and it's really hard to find it here in Montenegro. Basically, it's nothing here, and much easier nowadays to just buy the kitchen circulator, which can work with the temperatures of 38 degrees. It's one of the best solutions. If you don't have options like this, I will show you how to do this whole process easily and without any problems. So let's start here with just filling up the sink with the hot water, and I will try to preheat the raw chemical bottles to also have all the sediments dissolved in the bottles. Additional really useful tool is this infrared thermometer, and as you can see, I can point it up quite easily and measure the temperature. Additionally, this one have external probe, and this probe looks like this, so I can plug it in, and it's much better than the rest of the thermometers what I have. And because it's infrared, I can point it on top of the drum, for example, and see if it's properly preheated. So with a simple experiment, I just pointed on the water, basically on a sink there, and I see that it's 39 degrees of my water and my chemicals getting heated up also, and I'm trying to dissolve everything in the bottles and remove all the sediment. If you want to use this type of system, use it well in terms of the water. Just put a lot of water because it's a thermal capacitor. So basically, more water you have, better the temperature, better the stability, and it's much better with the temperature drops, basically when you remove the bottle and put the bottle back. So it's much better in terms of stability of the whole system. And again, I will use the same bottles from the Yobo, so it's a 600 milliliter bottle, and here inside I will put 500, so it's quite nice volume what I use for all type of developments, and I think it's one of the best quality bottles because the rest of them usually flimsy, and I'm not sure about the quality of the plastic. And in general, we're actually lacking simple stuff like good quality bottles, and bottles for the proper volume and for the proper type of storage. They should be square, they should be really nice, and we just don't have really good quality things there. To make the array for chemicals, I need 1:4 ratio, so basically 1 part of the solution and 4 parts of water, and I will make half a liter, and I will print with a half a liter. You know why? Because I want to try the new AgroFilm processor extension kit. And for that, it's not enough volume, so I need a much higher. So I will use the distilled water and prepare half liter of each solutions. So I have a 100 milliliter cylinder, and I will put 4 cylinders of water in a bottle and 1 cylinder of the chemicals inside the same bottle. I need to label both bottles, and today I will use a little bit different setup. I have this manual label printer, and it's quite nice because it cannot be dissolved and it's quite sticky, and you can easily remove it back. And I will put the names on the bottles. So the first one will be our developer, and I will tape it on top of the bottle. So it's much better to put the note on top of the bottle, and you will never miss it again. So, and this is how it looks like, and we will use this bottle for the developer. So let's start with the pouring water and preheating everything and all the chemicals to the temperature. And also be careful with your bottles, they should be clean. And now I see that they're not perfectly clean. For example, here I can see that it's a green thing on the lid, and basically my lid was not clean. So clean it again and be sure that all the bottles after the chemicals perfectly clean. So let's start with the pouring chemicals. And as I said, I need 400 milliliters of water. So in principle, you can also measure temperature of the bottles. And if you just point it up on the bottle, it's more or less correct temperature of the solution inside. So it's quite handy tool. Yes, it's not precise enough for C41, but for Array 4 it's definitely precise enough. And now let's make the 100 milliliter solution of the part A. And also what I don't like about the Adox chemistry, about this horrible leads. Yes, I know it's technically perfect, but like you cannot really reseal because it's also the paper back here. So it's not the perfect solution for storage, and if I have an option, I will definitely throw away this bottle and put it in my bottles. But let's open it up and I will try to cut it properly to actually have access to the chemicals. And usually it's also, because it's a thermal glue, it's not easy. You can also cut it only with a part of the plastic there. And when you open it, it doesn't really have a perfect opening edge. So the design of the bottles, it's more economical drive than just quality of the chemicals itself. So the last time, as you remember, I have a problem with the temperature stability, and now with the additional help of my thermometer, I will try to adjust it. And the main idea, I will overflow everything to have more or less the bump in the temperature, because I know it's a 40 degrees, 45 maybe degrees from the sink, from the tap, and I need 35 degrees. So I will basically a little bit overflow the sink and have the constant circulation of the hot water, and it will help me to contain the temperature. So it's more or less the same approach as the thermal circulator. If you have a big volume of the water, it's much better. Try to put a lot of water, so it's a thermal capacitor, and a lot of temperature will not change dramatically over the time if it's a big volume of water, so it's a big capacitor. If I measure the temperature, it's a little bit higher, so it's a 36 degrees, and I just need to wait until it will stabilize and stabilize the bottles. Meanwhile, we will take our negative and load it and make a focus and stuff like that. So Patterson adapter from the Ego looks like this. So it's a small adapter and it's enough for printing 99% of the things in the darkroom. It's quite big and it's easy to disassemble, and also it's easy to use. So you need to put the paper inside and you just close it. I usually pinch it like this a little bit to have better access to the middle, and it's quite easy enough to do in the dark. Downside, it's a lot of temperature loss here. So I also will preheat the drum, and I will also preheat the whole system. So I will put it in the sink in the same way, and with that I will try to make everything even in terms of temperature. So I will try to preheat the drum first, also for the paper here. And also, if you have this drum wet, as I did it just a second ago, it will ruin your development. So you will have a streaks on top, and it's much better if everything or dry or wet. So you need to pre-wet everything before you put your developer, but in this case you need to add a little bit of time on top of the developer. So if everything is wet, be careful. So pre-wash and put it on a wet paper, put the developer, and not the developer on some drops of water on top of the paper. So I will assemble it back, and I will put the Ego film processor on top because it's heavy, and we will see if it works to lift it down to the sink. No, it's also not enough, so it's a shame actually, that I cannot properly preheat the drum. But I will put it here in the corner and try to make a little bit more sense when we will start printing. To be honest, this is a really bad example how it should be done, but we on the fly, and you see this is a wet zone, and try to not mix the wet zones with the dry zones, because if you put your fingerprints on top of the paper, it will ruin the paper. And also on film, try to keep your film dry. So in general, these two zones should be completely separate from each other. So it should be or opposite side of the room, or you should have like additional table here with Enlarger. So it should be more manageable if you have dry zone and the wet zone separately. So I will select the negative from the last development with the Ego film processor to just finalize the series of the printing and the development with the same Ego film processor. And I have really good picture for that, and I want to print this one. So let's pull the negative from the sleeve and load it inside the Enlarger. For Intrepid Camera Enlarger, you have this kind of a primitive cut it from piece of metal frames. They work nice. I cannot say that's really bad idea, but in principle you can do better, and hopefully we will see new products on the market which solving a lot of issues with the reliability, with the quality, and I'm really actually lacking the high quality products on the market. We have some kind of a products which works, which solves some problems, but in general, overall, this is not really moving our industry forward. It's a good idea to remove the dust before you print, and for that you can use any type of Chinese blower, so it's not a big deal. I'm rotating the focus knob, and I can also zoom in and crop it down as I want. I can see that my easel is not perfectly stable on the table, which is additional problem what I have, but I'm not fully locked my stand hand, so I can rotate the Enlarger a little bit, and now I have correct image, and I just need to focus it down. So I'm using also focus finder for the finding the final details on my enlargement. Interesting that I cannot see the proper projections here. And I don't really understand what is the reason for that. So it looks like it's focused, and it's a really good question why I have less field of view, kind of, for this type of magnification in comparison to the Darkroom Enlarger which I used before. It's really interesting. But now when I focused, I see that I have not enough magnification, and I will probably keep the borders of the picture just because I want to make it look like it's printed in a darkroom and not just a digital print. And now with the dim light, you almost cannot see anything here on the table. And this is the downside of the LED projectors. It's not enough power. They not make them powerful enough, and it's really hard to work with such a tools. And now let's try to measure the temperature also with a direct measurement. So as you can see on the top, I have 36 degrees, so it's a good enough for temperature for development. So I will put the bottle back and start cutting test paper in the dark, and we will load the paper in the drum. Downside of my setup at the moment, I cannot show you what I'm doing in the darkroom, but I will explain it shortly. So I will take a scissors, cut the paper to fit my test printer, and there I will basically open the doors with the different times, and I will make exposure starting basically from random. I probably have F8 or something like that on my enlarger, because I completely don't remember which type of exposures I should have. Probably I need to rewatch my videos and take a review how it works. And here I will make a test print, and I will try to make a big print right away, so I will just cut the piece. and also because I don't really know the space where I'm working in to have the muscle memory, it's much easier to work with a safe light. So I have a special developed safe light, as you probably know, for the color Darkroom, and it will be restocked probably after New Year. And this is a battery powered USB charging safe light for the Darkroom, which is really nice, and you can adjust the power, depends on your room size and the distance where you put the safe light. Also, you can test the safe light. So it's really nice tool to have, and I will put it there on the shelf and point it upwards, and it will help me to navigate in the dark. Honestly, I forget how hard it is to actually use this test printer. It's a nightmare in comparison to what I created, and I honestly want my test printer to build for me, because I sold my last one because a person really asked if I have one, and it was the last one what I have. Unfortunately, I don't really have the test printer which I need, and I need to recreate that. And for me, it's a good sign that I have a really great product which I also personally use constantly every day in my darkroom. But let's continue with the development, and now I will try to preheat everything and check if the temperature is correct and if I have the proper readouts everywhere. And if I have the 35 degrees, and let's try to make it work together. So let's turn it on, and let's see if I have the program for the array for printing from the add-ons. And I have Arista printing setup here. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, it's more or less the same. So it's a 45 seconds development, blend and rinse. And I will probably do not use the rinse. I will just wash it under the tap. But this is what I will use. And now I also have the new product from the Vintage Visual, and this is a funnel. And I was complaining about that this tool doesn't really have a perfect funnel, and this is a funnel. And because it's a 3D printed, it's really great that the company can iterate really fast. And yes, it doesn't really look like, you know, injection molding parts and plastic part, but honestly, I, as a creator, don't care. I care about the quality of the product and if I can use it to improve stuff. So this is a really great attachment, and now let's start with the development. So I will pour the chemicals in, and I will also pour the chemicals back. So let's start with the pouring liquid inside. I will pull all of that just because I want to have more stable temperature. So I will put the whole half liter, and as you can see here, I have not enough temperature. So it's only 32 degrees and it's much colder than it should be, and probably it's not perfect, but for now I hope it will do and it will work more or less okay. 10 seconds out. 5 seconds out, and let's pour it back to the bottom. So the next step is a bleach fix, and let's pour it in and press also play. I reheated the bath here, so I have a 5 seconds to go, and it's ready. And with the bleach fix, it's not really important. It's almost impossible to over bleach. It's more important with the developer. And to wash everything, I will just use a tap water because it's a test print anyway, and I will pour few of them inside. And the funnel definitely helps. So the funnel is the amazing part. I'm not sure why it was not there from the beginning, but now everything works fine and it solved the whole problem with the pouring liquids back and forward. Let's remove the Ego processor from the top, remove the funnel. And the downside that you use only one sink, that inside the sink, you don't really have to option to dump the wastewater anywhere. And we actually have some print. Unfortunately, with this test printer, as you can see, I'm wasting a lot of paper. So I can make basically 2 test prints on the same paper, and this is probably what I will do next, because as you can see, this is just a waste of paper. But in general, I see at least the exposure range, and I see that I'm at least at some exposure range. But I just put the random color settings, so it doesn't really work well at the moment, but we will try to fix it in the next print. Also, what I don't really like about this design, you have a safe light, and if you press it in the color mode, it's basically just turn off the screen. And as you understand, for the test prints, I need a screen on and I need to change the time, and it's a little bit messy, so I don't really like how it works. And I'm also not sure about the time at the moment, because I don't really have any sound response. So honestly, this is not a professional tool. And we in the beginning Darkroom, and probably for beginners is really fine, but I think it's created a lot of struggles also for the beginning because of a lot of functions. So you have too many functions and most of them not really necessary. So it's much better if you have just 3 buttons and that's enough. So let's try to make a next development, and I cut this type of piece in half and let's assemble it. So I removed this piece and I will try it without, because it created a lot of trouble in a dark to put it back. So it's really not the perfect design for this type of thing. And I'm actually not sure why it's even there. So it's quite nice and snug fit there, so it will rotate without any problems. But let's see how it works with the real deal. And go with the default programs and select the Arista program again. Let's take our developer and pour it. And without funnel, you can pour it in the middle like this. So it's much better if you use it with the funnel, but also without funnel. I just tried it. You need a special skill to do that. But if you just mount the funnel, you can basically splash it in higher volume than it has here. And now I have a 34 degrees, so it's much better to keep the drum filled with water before you're developing, and probably it's also a better idea to preheat the drum somehow in between of the sets. So negative side is actually retention of chemicals, because it's a lot of moving parts inside. And let's continue with the bleach fix. And as you can see, I don't need special things to do. I just need to pour it basically on the funnel without any problems. It goes inside without spillage, only spillage of water, but it's fine. You can live with that. And with the washing, I will just pour a few times water inside. So for some reason, as you can see here, with the settings 100, 100, 100, I have quite a dramatic violet cast. But I can see that it's fogged on the side, and I don't really like the results so far. So let's try to change it, and I will just change the channels. So I will start to do exactly the same test print, but with a changed color. And this is a 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds, and I will go with probably 9 seconds on the exposure. And based on the manual, I need actually to increase the magenta channel, so I need to put the 2+ in the magenta and not in opposite way as I'm actually used to. So I need to rotate the middle knob +2 and make a test print from that. So we have some results. The downside, it's two sensitive knobs. As you can see here, I clearly got the exposure. Maybe I need to improve it a little bit more because I think it's not enough density. So maybe it's also because of the development temperature, but probably it's a good idea to go with the 10 seconds. And from the 10 seconds, I need to select something probably here and maybe in the middle, and I also need to adjust additional channel, and I'm not really sure or if it's too yellow or it's what is happening here. So it's a little bit strange and odd colors, and it was really great exposure actually with the scan, so I'm quite surprised that it's so off and I need to do a lot of adjustments on top. So let's start with this one, and this one is basically the steps from the beginning. Here is +3, +6, and this is +9. So I will take +8 and start to do exactly the same with the yellow channel. So the biggest trouble in all of this process is the enlarger. I completely don't like how the Intrepid camera enlarger works. I'm not sure if anyone printing with it, but I definitely not the fan. And it has so many downsides that it's almost impossible to recommend this enlarger. So it's much better to buy any type of old one, good one, and do not bother to even try to print color with a Intrepid camera enlarger. Unfortunately, it's so bad. I try to communicate with the guys from the Intrepid camera. Maybe it's no business there, I'm not sure, but in general, nobody will fix it and you just stuck with what you have. And no changes are delivered to this enlarger, but it's a lot of technical problems with the enlarger, which is quite easy to fix. And especially in the modern time, it's not enough quality of the product, especially in terms of quality of the film. You cannot really say that you're saving any type of time, money, and so on. And development is finished. Let's wait until it will stop, and I will disassemble everything and pull up my test strip from the drum. As you probably can see here, this is actually the smallest adjustment what I can make with this enlarger, and it's definitely not enough resolution to have the great color. It's only for the beginners, because for me this is a big steps. It's a big steps, like I have a 10 steps on the Darst enlarger, so it's much more precise than that, and the whole approach what the Intrepid camera enlarger used there, it's quite bad. So I cannot really recommend to use any type of filtration and this type of enlarger for the quality work. You cannot really dial in the colors, so it's quite messy. But nevertheless, this is what we have as conditions at the moment, so I need to select from here something in the middle of these two, and I can't. This is a problem, so this one is initial one, and I have a step of 2, and here I need a half step or something like that, so I cannot really do that. And this is a problem for me, so I will never get the perfect colors. I will get some kind of a strange mixture of colors, and maybe I also need to adjust something else. I'm not sure, but I adjusted 2 channels, and this one should be our final result. But as you can see here, I have a little bit of blue cast in the stones, and probably I need to increase the exposure a little bit. But let's try to make the big print and see what we can get from here. And I added 2 seconds for the exposure. I hope it will also help, but I think this is the best what I can do with this type of setup. So let's go with the temperature control again, and I want to see if everything is correct. So it's almost 39, as you can see here on the top one. So it will be a bit hot, but this is good. So it's good. It means I can start with a little bit colder drum. And let's go to default program again, and let's start the development of the big paper. As you can see, I have perfect 35 degrees at the moment. So to have water a little bit warmer, it's really good idea for this type of developments. Most of the time it will help you to prevent the temperature loss here in a drum, and it will stabilize the whole system. And so far I don't really have a huge problems with that. I don't use pre-wash. I try to do not touch the paper. So somebody asked me in the comments below if it's a good idea or not, and this is also the problem of the whole system, that everything is wet and you're mixing wet with the dry. Let's remove the funnel and the film processor itself and open up the lid and reveal our film. And it looks bad, so I messed up something. Yeah. First of all, it looks fogged. So I have the surrounding of the paper completely fogged and it's blue cast. And I'm not sure from where. This is quite interesting because it's edges of the film. So it's edges of the paper. Maybe I fogged the paper altogether. I'm not sure. And this is quite interesting because usually if you fog the paper, it's fogging with the red color and it's not fogged with the same, blue cast. It's interesting. So I have no clue and no idea from where I'm getting this blue cast. Maybe it's my safe light too powerful. I'm not sure. I will try to turn it off and try to reprint the same print again. So I reprinted everything and let's see if the result will change. Maybe it was a fogged paper. I'm not sure. It's quite hard to actually say what happens with the paper, because the array fog paper is quite sensitive and it's really hard to say if something wrong with your room or with your paper or with the print itself. Yeah. And I don't really understand what is this blue cast on top. So I tried everything. Unfortunately, I cannot find the problem what I have. And I will show results, and it's strange because it looks like the results is degrading, and at the same time I have a strange blue tint on all of the pictures. And I started with the test prints, and the test prints was looking perfectly fine. And I'm thinking it's two options. It's or the chemicals or something wrong with the developer, or it's a temperature, but temperature actually looks fine. I trying to walk around the room and find and search for the LEDs. I found actually the huge problem of the light leak. I was expecting that this is a problem, but unfortunately this is not the problem. I also find the light leak on the power supply and I replug it and make its arrangement, and I also find the light leak on the control panel of the Intrepid Camera Enlarger. Also, this was not the case, so I'm actually puzzled, and unfortunately I don't really have the good results today. But this was an endeavor, and I will show what I have and how it looks like at the moment. So the result is strange, because I started from this one, and as you can see, the test print works fine. And I continue. Here I started to get some kind of a blue cast. And on the next one, where I try to make a big print, I have the blue cast on the edges, which is crazy strange. It never happens. And as you probably understand, it's in the easel and this area is fully covered. That's basically under the coverage. So it's a bit strange. And the next one, it's even worse. So the next one is here and it's even worse than the previous one. And I get this one, and I also forget to change the yellow. So I basically accidentally bump the yellow channel there. And I thought that, okay, maybe it's paper problem. I take the different batch of paper, and this is paper which is smaller. This is not gloss paper. And it's also have the same blue cast problem. So I'm quite puzzled. I suspect that this is a chemistry because nothing else changed in the room. And it's probably an idea for the next video to find out what is the problem. But for today, I think that's it, and I will stop here. And as you can see, the color printing is not so easy, especially if you don't really have the good lab, good conditions. And here, what I have as a huge problem, I don't really know what's happening. And most of the time I get a confusion from the paper, and paper should be trusted. And I don't really trust the method of the paper in the box, where you open the box, you have the whole paper basically exposed, and you don't really have any idea if it's fogged before, if it's good inside, and so on and so forth. And also, I'm not sure if it survives the travel, but this one looks good. So for me, this is a good flag that I actually have no problem with the paper, and I have the paper which works. So I cut it 2 pieces actually. So it's a 2 pieces of paper, which definitely works. So it cannot be some kind of a strange, behavior. So it's or something with the room, or it's actually something with the enlarger itself, which is exposing, I don't know, the light leaks on top. And maybe I just changed something and moved something, but also what it can be that the chemistry is bad. And I'm not sure how much you can push it, but it was a half a liter. And I hope to get much more prints from the half a liter. So stay tuned. I hope you really like this vlog from the darkroom, and see you next time. Thank you for watching, and see you under the safe light.